The quantum resonance detector hadn't stopped buzzing for 3 days. Dr. Thora Blackwood rubbed her tired eyes, staring at the holographic display that filled her cramped research station aboard the Stellar Observatory Helios. The energy signature she detected near the Carina Nebula defied every known law of physics, and that both thrilled and terrified her. Running analysis sequence 47, she muttered into her research log, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The three-dimensional model of the energy pattern rotated slowly before her, its structure unlike anything humanity had encountered in their centuries of space exploration. The door to her lab hissed open, and Commander Jace Harrison's heavy footsteps broke her concentration. Dr. Blackwood, the board of directors is demanding an update. They're not happy about the amount of power you're drawing for these scans. Thora didn't look up from her work. Tell them I'm close to something unprecedented. The energy signature, it's not natural, Commander. It's too ordered, too precise. Someone or something created this. Created what exactly? Jace leaned against her workstation, his weathered face reflecting the blue glow of the holographic display. I don't know yet, Thora admitted, pushing back a strand of her silver-streaked black hair. But look at these patterns. She gestured to the rotating model. They're mathematical sequences, Commander. Perfect Fibonacci spirals wrapped in quantum signatures that shouldn't be possible in our universe. The Commander's expression darkened. You're saying we've found alien technology? Not just alien technology. Thora pulled up another set of readings. This energy source, it's old. The quantum decay patterns suggest it's been here for at least 1 million years, maybe more. We're looking at something that predates human civilization by eons. A warning alarm blared through the station, and the holographic display flickered. Thora's hands flew across the controls, trying to stabilize the power flow to her instruments. No, no, no. Commander, look at this. The energy signature had changed. What had been a steady pulse was now a complex wave pattern that seemed to reach out toward the station. Thora's quantum resonance detector screamed as its readings went off the scale. Shut it down, Jace ordered, but Thora shook her head. It's responding to our scans, Commander. It's aware. Her voice trembled with excitement and fear. This isn't just ancient technology. It's alive. The station's lights dimmed as another power surge hit them. In the darkness, the holographic display cast eerie shadows across the lab. The energy pattern had transformed into something that looked almost like a DNA helix, but with impossible geometries that hurt Thora's eyes when she tried to focus on them. Dar. Blackwood, Jace's voice was stern, this is beyond our mission parameters. We need to contact Earth Command. But Thora barely heard him. The pattern was speaking to her, not in words or images, but in pure mathematical concepts that bloomed in her mind like exotic flowers. She understood now why the energy signature had remained hidden for so long, why it had chosen this moment to reveal itself. It's been waiting, she whispered. Waiting for someone who could understand it, who could complete it. The Commander grabbed her arm. Doctor, you're not making sense. Thora turned to him, her eyes reflecting the strange light of the display. Don't you see? The ancients who built this, they didn't just leave us technology. They left us a key. A key to understanding the fundamental forces of the universe itself. As if in response to her words, the energy signature pulsed, sending waves of quantum distortion through the station. Equipment sparked and failed, but the holographic display remained steady, showing patterns that became increasingly complex and beautiful. We need to study this, Thora insisted, her voice filled with determination. This could change everything we know about physics, about reality itself. The power requirements, the risks, they're nothing compared to what we could learn. Commander Harrison looked from the display to Thora's face, seeing the same intensity he'd seen in other brilliant minds pushed to the edge of discovery. 24 hours, he said finally. You have 24 hours to prove this is worth the risk. After that, I'm calling it in. Thora nodded, already turning back to her instruments. As the commander left, she didn't tell him about the equations now flowing through her mind, or about the strange dreams she'd been having since the discovery. Dreams of vast machines built by beings of pure energy, of powers that could reshape galaxies, and of a choice that would change the fate of humanity forever. The energy signature pulsed again, gentler this time, almost like a heartbeat. Thora placed her hand against the cold glass of her observation window, looking out at the distant nebula where the signal originated. "What are you?" she whispered. "And what do you want from us?" The only answer was the steady hum of her instruments and the endless dance of quantum patterns across her display, but somehow Thora knew she was about to unlock secrets that had been waiting in the void for millions of years. She just hoped humanity was ready for what they would find. Rin Novak had always been able to see patterns where others saw chaos. As the Stellar Observatory Helios's chief xenolinguist, he decoded dozens of alien transmissions, but nothing had prepared him for this. The data streaming across his neural interface was unlike anything he'd encountered in 15 years of studying extinct civilizations. "Play it again," he instructed the ship's AI, closing his eyes as the strange harmonics filled his private lab. The signal that Dr. Blackwood had discovered wasn't just energy, it carried information, layers upon layers of it, encoded in quantum fluctuations that defied conventional physics. His hands moved through the air, manipulating the holographic representation of the signal's acoustic patterns. Each layer revealed new complexities, like peeling back the skin of an infinite onion. Cross-reference with the Arcturian Codex, he murmured, though he already knew this was something far older than the ruins found in the Arcturus system. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Enter," Rin called out, not looking away from his work. He recognized Thora's footsteps, quick, precise, carrying the same intensity as the woman herself. "Any progress?" she asked, moving to stand beside him. The dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept since their last meeting. Rin nodded slowly, pulling up a new visualization. "It's a language, Thora. But not like anything we've seen before. Most alien languages we've decoded are based on mathematical principles, wave functions, or binary systems. This." He gestured at the complex patterns floating before them. "This is based on quantum entanglement itself." "That's impossible," Thora breathed, but her voice held more wonder than doubt. "You can't encode information in quantum states. The act of observation would collapse the wave function. Unless," Rin said, his voice barely above a whisper, "you found a way to preserve quantum coherence across cosmic distances. Look at this." He expanded one section of the pattern, revealing intricate structures that seemed to fold in on themselves infinitely. "These aren't just messages. They're memories, preserved in the fabric of space-time itself." The holographic display shifted, responding to their presence. Symbols began to form in the air, not written or projected, but somehow emerging from the quantum foam of space itself. Rin's neural interface struggled to process the information, sending sharp spikes of pain through his temples. "The beings who created this," he continued, fighting through the discomfort, "they didn't think like us. They didn't experience time linearly. For them, past, present, and future were all one continuous stream of information." Thora moved closer to the display, her face illuminated by the ethereal light. "What are they saying, Rin?" He manipulated the patterns again, trying to isolate a coherent sequence. "It's fragmented, but I'm getting warnings. They're talking about something they created, something that got out of control. A power source, maybe, or a weapon. But the concepts they're using don't translate well into our language." "The energy signature I detected," Thora said, her voice tense. "Could that be what they're warning about?" Before Rin could answer, the holographic display erupted with new patterns. His neural interface screamed with input, and he staggered back, clutching his head. The quantum patterns were changing, evolving, becoming more complex with each passing second. "It's responding to us," he gasped. Just like it did with your instruments. It's not just a recording, it's adaptive, learning, trying to communicate in a way we can understand. Through the pain in his head, Rin began to see images, vast machines that spanned solar systems, beings of pure energy that danced between the stars, and a terrible power that threatened to consume everything. But there was something else too, a purpose behind the warnings, a desperate hope encoded in the quantum messages. They weren't just leaving a warning, he realized, his voice filled with awe. They were leaving instructions. They knew someone would find this eventually, someone who could understand. They've been waiting for us, Thora. Or. He looked at her intently. They've been waiting for you. The quantum patterns swirled around them, forming new configurations. Rin's neural interface began to adapt, translating the impossible language into concepts his human mind could grasp. They built something, he continued, something that could harness the fundamental forces of the universe. But it was too powerful, too dangerous to control. So they hid it, scattered its pieces across the galaxy, and encoded the key to finding it in these quantum messages. Thora's eyes widened. The energy signature I found, it's one of those pieces, isn't it? Rin nodded grimly. And now that we've found it, we've started something that can't be stopped. The pieces are calling to each other, trying to reassemble. The ancients knew this would happen eventually, but they hoped that whoever found their legacy would be wise enough to understand the responsibility that comes with it. The holographic display pulsed once more, then stabilized into a clear pattern, a map of sorts, showing connections between distant points of space. Each point glowed with the same strange energy Thora had detected, forming a vast network that spanned the galaxy. Commander Harrison needs to see this, Thora said, but Rin caught her arm. Wait, he said, his voice urgent. There's more. The ancients, they left a choice. A way to either contain this power or... He paused, studying the patterns intently. Or unleash it completely. But the cost. His voice trailed off as the full implications became clear. What cost? Thora demanded. Rin looked at her, his expression grave. The cost of either choice is beyond calculation. We're not just dealing with technology, Thora. We're dealing with the fundamental nature of existence itself. And whatever we decide to do, there's no going back. The Helios shuddered as another wave of quantum distortions rippled through space. In the observation deck, Thora watched helplessly as streams of impossible energy twisted around the ship like luminous serpents. The artifact they'd brought aboard, a crystalline structure that had emerged from the nebula's heart, pulsed with an inner light that seemed to reach into her very soul. The containment field is failing, Commander Harrison's voice crackled through the ship's comm system. Whatever that thing is, it's getting stronger. Thora pressed her hand against the observation window, feeling the vibrations of power coursing through the ship's hull. The artifact had changed since they'd retrieved it, growing more active with each passing hour. Its quantum signatures now matched perfectly with the patterns in Rin's decoded messages, forming a symphony of energy that threatened to tear reality apart. We need to jettison it, Rin argued, his neural interface flickering with interference from the artifact's emissions. The ancients' warnings were clear, this power was never meant to be contained. But Thora couldn't look away from the crystal's hypnotic glow. The equations flowing through her mind had become more than just mathematics, they were a language, a song, a direct connection to whatever consciousness dwelled within the artifact. It's not trying to destroy us, she said softly. It's trying to transform us. The ship's lights flickered and died, leaving only the ethereal radiance of the artifact illuminating the observation deck. In its light, Thora saw patterns of energy flowing through her own body, matching the quantum resonance of the ancient device. She understood now why it had called to her, why she had been chosen. The ancients weren't just advanced beings, she explained, her voice distant as revelations cascaded through her consciousness. They found a way to transcend physical form entirely. This artifact, it's not a weapon or a power source. It's a key to evolution itself. Rin moved closer, his expression a mixture of wonder and fear. The messages spoke of a choice, Thora. A transformation that could not be undone. Is this what they meant? Before she could answer, the artifact's light intensified. Streams of quantum energy poured from its surface, forming complex geometric patterns in the air. Each pattern corresponded to a different possibility, a different potential future for humanity. Thora saw them all simultaneously, countless timelines branching out like the roots of an infinite tree. They seeded these artifacts throughout the galaxy, she said, understanding flowing through her like a river of light. Each one waiting for a species advanced enough to comprehend its purpose. The energy signature we detected wasn't just a beacon, it was a test. And we passed. Commander Harrison's voice cut through her revelation. Dr. Blackwood, we're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the ship. Whatever's happening, it's affecting our core systems. But Thora barely heard him. The artifact was showing her things beyond human comprehension, the true nature of space and time, the underlying structure of reality itself. She saw how the ancients had discovered these secrets, how they had used them to transcend their physical forms, and how they had scattered their legacy across the cosmos. They're offering us a chance, she whispered. A chance to follow their path, to become something more than we are. But the price? She faltered as she understood the full implications. The price is everything we are now. Our current form, our current understanding of existence, it would all have to be left behind. Rin's neural interface sparked and died as the quantum distortions intensified. The warnings weren't just about the power being dangerous, he realized. They were about the impossibility of turning back. Once this process starts, it can't be stopped, Thora finished. The artifact's light had begun to merge with her own bioelectric field, creating patterns of energy that defied known physics. She could feel her consciousness expanding, touching minds and possibilities that no human had ever experienced. The ship's structural integrity is failing, Harrison announced, his voice tight with tension. Whatever you're going to do, Doctor, do it fast. Thora looked at her hands, watching as quantum patterns danced across her skin. The artifact had chosen her as its conduit, its bridge between what humanity was and what it could become. But the choice was still hers to make, ascension or extinction, transformation or destruction. There's something else, she said, her voice changing as new understanding flooded her mind. The ancients, they didn't all agree on this path. Some of them believed that consciousness should evolve naturally, that forcing transcendence would lead to catastrophe. That's why they left the choice to us. The artifact's light reached a blinding intensity, and Thora felt her very atoms beginning to resonate with its frequency. In that moment, she saw the truth behind the ancients' legacy. It wasn't just about power or evolution. It was about responsibility, about understanding the consequences of wielding forces that could reshape reality itself. If I accept this, she said, looking at Rin with eyes that now shimmered with quantum fire, I won't just be changing myself. I'll be changing the course of human evolution forever. Every person, every future generation, they'll all be affected by this choice. The ship groaned as reality itself began to bend around them. In the artifact's light, Thora stood at the crossroads of humanity's future, holding in her hands the power to either elevate her species to godhood or preserve their natural path of development. The price of power had never been clearer, nor had the weight of responsibility been heavier. The bridge of the Helios had become a maelstrom of quantum chaos. Emergency sirens wailed as reality itself buckled under the strain of the artifact's power. Commander Harrison watched in horror as his crew's vital signs fluctuated wildly on the monitoring screens, their very DNA responding to the waves of energy pulsing through the ship. All decks reporting quantum breaches, Lieutenant Zara Reed announced, her dark skin illuminated by the emergency lights. The artifact's field is expanding exponentially. At this rate, we have less than an hour before total structural failure. Harrison keyed the ship-wide comm, Dr. Blackwood, we're running out of options. Whatever you're going to do with that thing, it needs to happen now. In the observation deck, Thora barely registered the commander's words. The quantum transformation had progressed beyond her physical form, her consciousness now existed partially in dimensions beyond normal spacetime. Through these new senses, she could see the artifact's true nature, its connection to a vast network of similar devices scattered throughout the galaxy. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air shimmer. "The ancients built a web of possibility, connecting every corner of space. Each artifact is a node, a potential catalyst for evolution." Rin struggled to maintain his footing as another wave of distortions rocked the ship. His neural interface was giving him glimpses of what Thora was experiencing, fragments of impossible knowledge that threatened to overwhelm his human mind. "The ship's primary systems are failing," he warned. "If we don't contain this soon, we'll lose more than just the Helios. The quantum cascade could spread to nearby systems, maybe even Earth." Through her expanded consciousness, Thora saw the truth of his words. The artifact's power was growing beyond control, its influence reaching across space like ripples in a cosmic pond. She could feel other nodes in the network responding, awakening from their million-year slumber. "The ancients knew this might happen," she said, her form now more energy than matter. "They knew that once the network began to activate, it would either transform everything it touched or tear it apart. That's why they left the choice to beings who could understand the consequences." A violent tremor shook the observation deck. Through the windows, they could see space itself beginning to fold and twist, creating patterns that hurt the human eye to observe. The artifact's crystal structure had begun to merge with the ship's hull, spreading its quantum influence through the vessel's superstructure. Multiple hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, Zara's voice crackled through the calm, emergency containment fields are failing. "We have to evacuate." But evacuation was no longer an option. Thora could see through the quantum field that surrounded them, the distortions had created a bubble of altered spacetime. They were trapped in a pocket of reality that was rapidly diverging from normal space. "The network is trying to protect itself," she realized. "It's creating a quantum isolation field to contain the transformation. If we try to leave now, we'll tear this entire sector of space apart." Commander Harrison's voice was grim. "Doctor, I've got 300 people on this ship. I need options." Thora reached out with her new senses, trying to understand the patterns of power flowing through the artifact network. Each node contained not just energy, but information, the accumulated knowledge and experience of the ancients who had created it. "There might be a way," she said slowly. "The ancients built safeguards into the system. A way to channel the power, to direct the transformation instead of letting it happen chaotically." "What's the catch?" Rin asked, knowing there had to be one. Thora turned to him, her eyes now pools of quantum fire. "Someone has to serve as a focal point. A consciousness capable of understanding both human limitations and the artifact's potential. Someone who can bridge the gap between what we are and what we might become." Understanding dawned on Rin's face. "You're talking about becoming like them, like the ancients." "Not like them," Thora corrected. "Something new. A synthesis of human consciousness and quantum awareness." "But the process." She hesitated. "The process would burn away everything I am now. My human self would cease to exist." Another violent tremor rocked the ship. On the bridge, Harrison watched as the quantum distortions began to affect his crew. Some were experiencing accelerated evolution, their bodies struggling to adapt to the artifact's influence. Others seemed to be phasing in and out of normal spacetime, their very existence becoming uncertain. "Whatever you're going to do," he urged, "do it fast. We're losing people." Thora could feel the pressure building, both in normal space and in the quantum dimensions she now perceived. The artifact network was reaching a critical point. Soon, the transformation would become irreversible, spreading across the galaxy like a wave of forced evolution. She looked at Rin, seeing both his physical form and the quantum potential that lay beneath it. The ancients left us this choice because they couldn't make it themselves, she said. They couldn't decide if consciousness should evolve naturally or be guided toward transcendence. Now that choice falls to us, to me. The ship groaned as reality continued to warp around them. In the space between moments, Thora stood at the crossroads of human destiny. She could feel the weight of billions of lives, of countless potential futures, all hanging on her decision. If I do this, she said, her voice resonating across multiple dimensions, humanity will never be the same. We'll be set on a path that we can't turn back from. But if I don't? She looked out at the chaos consuming the ship. If I don't, we might not survive at all. Time had become meaningless aboard the Helios. In the quantum maelstrom that engulfed the ship, past and future merged into an eternal present. Thora floated in the observation deck, her form now more energy than matter, as the final moments of her humanity slipped away like stardust through her fingers. The artifact's crystal structure had spread throughout the ship, transforming the vessel into a vast quantum processor. Through her expanded consciousness, Thora could feel the minds of every crew member, their thoughts and fears resonating across dimensions she had never known existed before this moment. The containment fields are gone, Commander Harrison reported, his voice distorted by quantum interference. We're losing structural integrity in all sections. Whatever you're going to do, Thora, it has to be now. She could see it all now, the vast web of possibility that the ancients had woven across the galaxy. Each artifact was a nexus point, a potential catalyst for transformation. The network had been dormant for millions of years, waiting for a species capable of understanding its purpose. Now, through her, it had found one. I understand what they were trying to do, Thora said, her voice carrying harmonics that made reality itself vibrate in sympathy. The ancients didn't just want to evolve consciousness, they wanted to give it a choice. A real choice, made with full understanding of the consequences. Rin struggled to maintain his neural interface connection as waves of quantum energy swept through the ship. What kind of choice? Whether to embrace transformation or remain as we are, Thora answered. But it's not just about humanity anymore. I can see the pattern now, there are other species out there, other civilizations approaching this same crossroads. What we decide here will affect them all. The ship's structure groaned as space-time continued to warp around them. Through the observation windows, they could see stars shifting position, their light bending in impossible ways as reality struggled to accommodate the power being unleashed. Lieutenant Reed's voice crackled through the comm, multiple system failures cascading through all decks. Life support is failing. Emergency pods are non-functional due to quantum interference. Thora reached out with her new senses, touching the minds of the crew. She felt their fear, their confusion, but also their resilience, the uniquely human ability to face the unknown with courage and hope. In that moment, she understood why the ancients had chosen to leave this legacy to younger races. The network wasn't just a test, she realized. It was a gift. The ancients reached the limits of their own evolution and couldn't decide what to do next. So they created this, a way for other species to make that choice for themselves. Commander Harrison's voice was strained, Doctor, we need a decision. The ship can't take much more of this. Thora looked at Rin, seeing both his physical form and the quantum potential that lay within him, within all humans. There's a third option, she said softly. Not just acceptance or rejection of the transformation. The ancients couldn't see it because they were too far removed from their own origins. But we can. She reached out to the artifact network, not just with her mind but with her entire being. The quantum fire that had been consuming her began to flow in new patterns, responding to her understanding. The ship's structure stabilized as she exerted her will over the chaotic energies. We don't have to choose between remaining human and becoming something entirely different, she continued. We can chart our own course, integrate this knowledge gradually, evolve at our own pace. The power isn't in the transformation itself, but in having the wisdom to know how to use it. The crystal structures throughout the ship began to pulse in rhythm with her thoughts. Thora could feel the vast network responding to her decision, accepting this new possibility that the ancients hadn't considered. But the price is still the same, she said, looking at her hands as they became translucent with energy. Someone has to serve as the bridge, to understand both what we are and what we could become. Someone has to show the way. Rin stepped forward, despite the energies swirling around them. There has to be another way. You don't have to sacrifice everything you are. Thora smiled, her form beginning to merge with the quantum field that surrounded them. I'm not sacrificing who I am, she said. I'm becoming what I need to be. A guardian, a guide, someone who can help humanity navigate this new path without losing what makes us human. The ship's systems began to stabilize as Thora exerted her growing control over the artifact's power. Throughout the vessel, crew members watched in awe as the chaos subsided, replaced by a gentle luminescence that seemed to pulse with life and purpose. Commander, she said, her voice now carrying through the quantum field itself, get the ship to safety. I'll contain the transformation field until you're clear. What about you? Harrison asked. I'll remain here, with the artifact network. There will be others who find these nodes, other species facing this choice. They'll need guidance, understanding, a perspective that bridges the gap between organic life and quantum transcendence. As the Helios's engines powered up, preparing to break free from the quantum bubble, Thora felt a profound peace settle over her. She had found a way to preserve humanity's potential while opening the door to something greater, not an ending, but a new beginning. Remember, she said, her final words as a human echoing through the ship, the greatest power isn't in transformation itself, but in choosing how to transform. The ancients gave us the key, we choose the lock it opens. The quantum field collapsed inward, concentrating around Thora's form. In the last moment before the ship jumped to safety, those on the bridge saw her figure transform into pure energy, merging with the artifact network but somehow maintaining a shape that was uniquely, unmistakably human. The Helios escaped, carrying with it a story that would change humanity forever, not a tale of transcendence or extinction, but of finding a middle path, a way to grow without losing what made them human in the first place. And somewhere in the quantum web that spanned the galaxy, Thora remained, watching, waiting, and guiding others who would face the same choice she had made.